Now, a lot of you know that I was homeschooled myself, and obviously now I'm homeschooling my own children. But what a lot of you may not know is that I once went to school for a few years of my life. My parents sent me there to get educated and to get socialized. But how did that look for me? Well, it was actually pretty lonely. For me, the idea of socialization is supposed to be that you're learning the norms, you're learning what you need to do to fit in. But for me, it was actually a really lonely experience because the other kids didn't want to socialize with me because all the other kids were really, really white and I was only half white. My mom's Egyptian. And so for me, a lot of the time that looked really lonely, and I wasn't bullied, I wasn't picked on, but I was just left alone as something that was a little bit unusual. So let's not go there. Let's not make friends with her. I remember often feeling desperate to have friends. One time there was a whole bunch of girls. I remember saying, I don't want to join the goody girls group. So I made a conscious decision that they were too good and no, I'm not going to do that. And so I wanted to join the bad girls group because that really appealed to me. And they were doing Barbie dolls then. Barbie dolls was the in thing when you were 6 or 7. And my parents, they didn't have a lot of money at the time. I asked them to get me a Barbie doll. They said, honey, I'm sorry, we just really can't afford that. And so I thought, how am I going to fit in with this social group? How am I going to get social kudos? Because I don't have any friends here. It's really lonely. And so I thought, I'm going to steal one from the local shops. And so that's what I did. I went into our local supermarket. I walked down the aisle. I had a big jumper on. I went to the Barbie section and I quickly grabbed it and put it underneath my shirt. And I walked out of the supermarket with it. Nobody noticed. And then a few weeks later, so I went to school with this Barbie doll, but I felt really bad about using it. And I did get a little bit of social kudos for doing that, but I always felt really bad because I knew you shouldn't steal something. Yeah, and so a few weeks later, my parents saw me playing with this thing and they said, where did you get that? Because we didn't buy it for you. And I said, I stole it. They were horrified. They thought, our beautiful little girl has stolen this Barbie doll. What is going wrong? I thought we were sending them to a Christian school to get Christian values, to get socialized. And for them, they made me go back to the supermarket, apologize. I was a mess. I was in tears. It was horrible. But I think for them, that was the real catalyst to go, there is something wrong here. There's something we're not understanding about our little girl here. And so for them, that was a catalyst for them to start homeschooling me, to oversee my socialization and my Christian education, the values I'm being actually not only taught, but that it becomes head knowledge as well, that it plays out in my life. So my parents started homeschooling me, but how was I supposed to get socialized? Well, let's have a look at what socialization is. Socialization is just learning the societal norms around you. What is normal behavior among the people in your area around you? The idea is that you can then go on and operate a fully fledged adult normally in society and you won't have any issues. This doesn't really play out in a homeschool or in a school always either, but that's the idea. Anyway, when my parents started homeschooling, there are a lot of well-intentioned people in our church and they said, this whole homeschooling thing, it's really a fad. You really ought to know that if you homeschool your children, they're not going to be socialized. And from talking to a lot of people these days, I've noticed that when people ask about the homeschool socialization question, the best thing to do for you to lovingly do for them is to say, what do you mean by socialization? So you're talking about the same thing, because a lot of people don't even know what socialization is or how to do it effectively. But anyway, these people said, your kids are going to be doomed to social inaptitude if you homeschool them. If we dared skip the conventional school experience. Well, today we're going to dispel those myths that your children cannot be socialized if you homeschool them. In fact, I'm not even worried about socialization because I've been homeschooled myself and I have seen it is so much better. Well, it was in my case, and for a lot of the homeschooled children I knew, and from a lot of the studies I've read, homeschooling is a much better way to socialize children. Okay, let's talk about an example where we see society saying that peers are the only way to socialize. Social development is intertwined with every aspect of your baby's growth. Start socializing them with other little ones from a young age to cultivate their sense of self and teach them societal expectations. Preschool or childcare centres are the holy grail of social interaction and developmental milestones. People really believe this. But these notions lack solid evidence, as well as a fair bit of common sense. It seems we're fixated on the magnificence of school-based education. Of course, yes, there are consequences of children missing out on socialization. Cue the dreaded BO smell, or the awkward blank stare of children who have no idea what is happening. But at the same time, let us not forget the darker undercurrent of peer groups. So often bad peers serve as teachers for far more perilous lessons. Think about drug use and alcohol consumption and romantic escapades that end in so much sadness and all these other things that we see in schools. Now, don't get me wrong, socialization is incredibly important for child development. It helps with empathy, mental health, and the ability to learn. But socialization doesn't solely have to happen within the confines of the school building. In fact, research has shown that socialization at home can be just as impactful, if not more so, in nurturing a child's emotional well-being and social skills. Just check out my book, which has over 300 references supporting the positive impact of homeschooling. But what impact does this myth of homeschool socialization being disastrous have on society? Is it really that much? I say yes. This deceitful notion causes so much heartache among loving stay-at-home mothers who want to keep their children at home but feel that they should send their children off because surely it's better for them. The socialization myth spreads like wildfire, damaging parent and child bonding. One of my friends, I'll call her Sarah because she said not to use her real name. She used to work in a daycare, which was a business. So these parents would drop their children off at the daycare, leave them there. Often they had 6-week-old babies, the youngest they had, and then they would go off to work and sometimes pick them up 12 hours later. And some of the children, she said, would cry, and there would only be brief periods in the day when the child was not upset and crying. And she said, she's such a motherly person herself. She said that was so hard to see. And then the mother would come back and say, you know, how is little Johnny? Have they had a good day? And Sarah said she wasn't allowed to say, little Johnny has been crying most of the day. He's been very, very sad. She said her boss said they couldn't do that. They could only tell them about the good parts of the day. And so she said she wasn't allowed to say that he was miserable and this was not working for him because it was a business. Sarah said that it was so obvious. Little Johnny just wanted his mother. Some might say that a little bit of crying for Johnny, not so bad. It builds resilience. Well, this term of resilience has been taken way too far, to the point where we're now using it to describe scarring in children. Resilience is supposed to be you get down and you come back up stronger from having been down. You learn. But scarring is you go down and you come back only a little way up because you're actually weaker from that horrible experience you've just had. And I think that's what that damaging of social bonds often does. It scars. It doesn't build resilience. And I think talking about these daycare examples can be taken into the school environment too. We take our children away from their parents way too early. And I think homeschooling education is perfect to keep building that bonding and those relationships. And homeschool families often have the most beautiful bonding happening between siblings. Often you find them fighting in school. When I went to school, I was not good friends with my brothers, whereas when I was homeschooled, we were good friends. And you find that in a lot of homeschools, and also parent-child relationships are often so much better in homeschools, as it was with me. When I went to school, I came back home and I was like, Mum, talk to the hand. I'm too tired. I'm not telling you about my day. And she just wanted to hear about my day. When I was homeschooled, we were there. We were talking about it together. Mum was my best mate. Okay, so I've made the point that homeschoolers don't need to go to school to be socialized. But how do they get socialized? Because they don't just sit at home sucking their thumbs all day. Let me give you a whole lot of ways homeschoolers can get socialized real quick. Join homeschool groups, participate in local community events and festivals, engage in volunteer work, attend homeschool conventions and conferences, take part in field trips and educational outings, join community sports leagues, participate in local theatre productions, form study groups with other homeschoolers, attend music lessons, or join homeschool band or orchestras, get involved in scouting programs, join a homeschool book club, participate in homeschool science fairs, take part in art classes and workshops, join a homeschool debate or speech club, volunteer at local libraries or museums, participate in community gardening projects, join a homeschool coding or robotics class, attend homeschool specific events and gatherings, participate in homeschool field trip days or sports tournaments, take part in community service projects, join homeschool specific online forums or social media groups, attend homeschool park days or picnics, participate in homeschool writing workshops or clubs. Join a homeschool choir or vocal group, take part in community theatre productions, attend homeschool science or history fairs, join a homeschool chess or board club, engage in outdoor activities like hiking, camping, nature walking with other homeschoolers, take part in homeschool cooking or baking classes, join a homeschool photography or art club, attend homeschool specific educational workshops or seminars, participate in homeschool spelling bees or math competitions, participate in homeschool community service initiatives. Now, homeschool socialization isn't such a big deal, but there are some things that really destroy homeschools that I have seen often. I've made a video here, so make sure you watch it.